work. I went right back to work, which is stupid right off the bat, Chris. Stupid. All I did was focus on that. That's when it started with me going deeper and deeper into depression. Still continued to have a nationally ranked program because all I did was focus on work. So then I didn't have to focus on, if I didn't have time to see my disability, to deal with it, it kind of didn't exist. But I did pay for it by running into the brick wall of depression.
Welcome in to Menfolk Journeys, the podcast of great conversations with men. I'm your host, Chris Foster, and we're going to explore how we wear this beautiful and confusing mantle of manhood in the 21st century. Look, I get it. In public life, a lot of men are knuckleheads. But in private life, we can be thoughtful and we can be reflective if we have the right conversation, if we feel comfortable talking about our story. And we all have a great story to tell. And we can all learn from those stories. We can learn about who we've been, who we are, and who we want to be. And that's why we're going to have this conversation, so we can learn from other men just like us. And in this episode, we're going to talk with my new friend Scott. In your early 20s, he lost his hands and his feet through a freakish staph infection. How do you move past that? How do you move past that and just not only begin your life, but keep pushing through your life and be the coach that you were always meant to be and impact other people's lives through his mentorship and his coaching belief? It's a wonderful story. He's an incredible man. I hope you enjoy this. Welcome in to Menfolk Journeys. Hey folks, this is Chris, and I wanted to let you know that you can support this episode. If you love these conversations and get something out of them, you can support the show by helping me with the platform fees and technologies that make this show happen. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/menfolkjourneys. Look, I know it's a long URL, but it works. buymeacoffee.com/menfolkjourneys. Just like it sounds. You can donate $1, $5, $3, $10, whatever. You can even make it monthly. And all proceeds go to support the technologies I use to make this show happen. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode. Well, all right. Well, Scott Martin, welcome in.
Oh, thanks, Chris. It's really nice to be here with you.
Really appreciate it. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, I think we'll do the bullet point version. Okay.
Got it.
Husband, father, teacher, coach, author, and quad amputee. I'll leave that for the end because that's the most dramatic one.
It is the most dramatic one, but what I think is interesting is that's not the most important part of how you define yourself.
No,
exactly. Right? You were really clear. You were like husband, father, teacher, coach, yep. Author, right? And so in terms of your own self-identification, that's how you come across. I think that's awesome. So I'd love to dive into the coaching bit. I think that teacher coach probably is, in terms of the Venn diagram, teacher coach kind of overlaps, right?
Yes. Most definitely.
Right. So talk about that. What kind of coach are you? And, and I want to dive into that a little bit more because that connection between coaches and athletes are something I think that is really worth exploring, especially from a men's perspective, and especially because the Olympics are coming on, right? All these athletes with all their coaches and all those stories that we don't hear about. So tell me about what coaching you've done and what coaching you're doing.
Oh, wow. I coached my first youth soccer team. I was a freshman in college. Our coach at the time, Jerry Stark, was also the president of the Oshkosh Youth Soccer Association. And he got me involved. So I did some strange things right out of the gate, Chris. I mean, well, first of all, in all my years of coaching, I've never started with a team that had a winning record. It's always been brand new programs or teams that were coming off a losing season. And that first season was was the same. I think they scored maybe 4 goals and didn't win a single match. So here I am coming out, young college guy, bring out a boombox to class, or to not class, but to the fields, and boombox, bag of balls, some discs, some pennies, basically it. That's all I really need. I don't believe in a lot of stuff going on. It's more about the kids getting involved. So that's how I started out. And then I started learning more, attending camps. I started going overseas. I was asked to start taking kids during the summertime in between my seasons because I was still playing. Kids from the United States and playing in major tournaments over in Europe. So I was
Wonderful.
really just, it was great experience. I met some great people.
That must have been eye-opening too, because I come by this with some degree of knowledge, but a whole lot of ignorance. And so from my soccer experience, I can tell you that my wife and I have been following the EPL for maybe 4+ years. We fell in love with a team, or I fell in love with a team, and then she fell in love with the team, called the Brentford Bees. And
Yes.
they were promoted for the first time in like 73 years. And the story is we were watching Ted Lasso, right? So we knew a little bit about EPL and relegation. And I'm in my barbershop, which is kind of this man cavey type of thing, and having a scotch and watching a soccer match. I was like, oh, this is just like Ted Lasso. This is like English soccer, blah, blah, blah. And the fans are going crazy. It'll look so wholesome, right? A whole family's like are in the stands, right? And they have all these little bees, placards and stuff, and they score a goal. And the announcer says, and it's their first top flight goal in 73 years. And I was like, that's my team, right? So we totally fell in love with them. And the Bees have not disappointed. In fact, they've outperformed and punched above their weight every year. But the reason that I mention that is that I started to become interested, right, in all these teams and these players. And then I get interested in the players themselves. And Scott, some of these players start in like soccer, they call football academies, when they're like 9 or 10. Like, so I imagine, and the reason there's a roundabout way of getting to where my question is, when you took kids from the US to Europe to play with those folks, that must have been a completely different experience in the world for our young athletes to see these kids who've been playing soccer in major academies their whole lives.
Well, that takes, here you go. My very first time over to Europe. First of all, we were one of the first teams to be welcomed to come visit and play in the Soviet Union before the administration changed. Yeah. So we were able to
Congratulations.
go and had, welcomed into the, to Kremlin, and we saw Stalin's body. We saw Lenin's body, so a lot of that. But going back to what you were saying about the academies and things, very first tournament, we're in the Holland Cup. And I was coaching under 13, so I had a bunch of 12-year-olds. And so everyone that we were competing against, kids were 12 years old. And here we are. We made it out of our group. We got to the quarterfinal. And I started hearing, oh, you're going to be playing the Italians. You're going to be playing the Italians. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And they happened to be playing, after somebody told me, an adjacent field. So I went over and watched, and the field was just surrounded by hundreds of people. What's going on? Well, there's this kid that is signed and he's playing for the Italian team, and you get to go up against him. I don't remember. I wish I would have caught the name, because I don't know whatever happened to this god of soccer that was 12 years old. Well, here we are going into the quarterfinal, and I got my view of these kids, the other team, the Italians, playing in a match. And I came up with an idea with what we were going to do. Now, I had kids from all across the country. We'd only been in a training center for a week outside of Amsterdam. And I came up with an idea of, here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to somewhat pack it in. We're going for 0-0 and going to penalty kicks, because I know what our quality of our keeper was. So here we are. It's tournament, so it's two halves of 30 minutes instead of 40 or 45. So it's lesser, less ticks on the clock. And we just kept milking it. We'd be able to
parking the bus, absorbing pressure.
Exactly. And then just clearing. Let's, tick tock, play that game. Well, in a tournament, they didn't have extra times or anything. We went straight to penalties. So here we were. And we ended up hitting our 5 and they missed one. Our goalkeeper stopped one. So we beat this, God almighty down from the heavens Italian team. And it was just a great experience for myself and for the kids. They were sky high. Of course, we lost the next match because.
But you know what? You did the right thing as a coach. Strategically, you were like, okay, the only way we're going to win is through defensive, and say go for that 0-0, and maybe get a counter, but don't expose the lines and just keep it compact from a defensive standpoint. Brilliant.
Exactly. Hey, going back to what you were talking about, the Premier League. Have you been paying attention to Wrexham? Wrexham, that's there in the English Premier League, and if they win,
the Championship
and they
League.
just spent a bunch of money again. Yeah, exactly.
They did. No, they're moving up. So and in the transfer window, they actually spent some money too. It's exciting.
Yeah, they spent.
We'll see.
Millions of dollars.
It'd be a wonderful story. And I think what's really interesting too is that when you start seeing these teams move up, and then you start seeing the coaches, the coach ends up having such a dramatic influence on a team, and it isn't just the tactics. I think that the coaches and the managers, or whatever you want to call them, they really set a tenor for the culture. And I guess my question for you is, you went in, you said you like to have teams who are losing teams or just starting programs, and kind of a turnaround. What attracts you to a culture of turnaround?
The drama. I mean, always to be the underdog. It's fun. It is. It's fun. I just was asked to start working with a group of under 18, a state league team in a neighboring city, and they won state last year, but they only have 3 remaining players. Everyone else graduated, and they went to an older team. So it's basically, again, starting with pretty much a new team because they went through a tryout system. And again, only 3 of the 17, I think it was, from the previous year are going to be on that team. So here I am again. We just had our first meeting last week. And actually, there are some political issues involved with it about kids not wanting to come. There was an issue between the former coach and the club and all of these. And I came in and sat down on the front table and said, look, I'm going to be open and honest. I want you to know right away that it's the players in the game that come first. I'm not going to be getting involved in politics or anything. So what do you want to do, folks? You're either going to can this, or you guys can go play rec, or you can get it together and let's go win another state championship. Like, oh, okay. Everybody raised their hand. They were in support of that. So I was able to win them. They bought in now. And now they're having another tryout next week to try to get some of the players that said, I don't want to come play for anyone but their former coach. And we've gotten through the political BS. So now we're clearing the air. And I met with parents as well. So the politics of this, I hate it. I can't stand it. Now,
Sure.
Are you a parent of any kids that are in athletics? Yeah. So have you had that experience?
From a parent's side, my kids weren't in athletics, but they were in ballet, which is a very athletic form of dance. And so, sure, there's a little, and ballet's a little, right? Ballet is not a kind art. It's not a kind art to the dancers or the parents. And the challenge with ballet, especially, is that there are so few, top roles for all the kids that are there. So it's a real pyramid structure. And so there's some politics involved with that, without a doubt. And that's not pleasant for anybody because you really just want to focus on the dancers, or in your case, focus on the athlete. I guess my question for you is, you said you love the drama and you love the underdog story. Have you always been like that? Have you always been the one to say, I'm going to try to take someone who I'm going to try to, excel in the sense of improvement, and the effort of improvement is so much more important than necessarily being the top team. Has always been a part of you?
Yes, but there's always the objective of becoming that top team,
Right.
Just everything you can pull together. And it usually comes down to, being able to get them to buy in, like I was talking about before. And my focus is not on the technical side, as in we don't do a whole lot of drills. If I'm working with a state level team, I shouldn't have to. It's about the tactical side, and try to help the players learn. I always have had a mantra that I go by. My mission is not to teach you, but to put you in a position to learn. That's very different. Those two things are very different. I'm not trying to pound things into them and then testing them on it and presenting so they learn it, because then it's rote. It's just memorizing something and just being repetitive. But now you're against an opponent. You can't do that because you have someone in your way. They have the same objective against you. So by doing that, it takes a little bit longer. Once we get there, though, Chris, then it's rock solid. And those kids understand that they have responsibility, but they also have freedom. I give them the freedom. In soccer, I can do that. Football, no, you have to run certain plays, right? And in your case, in dance, you have to do things a certain way. But there's also some freedom in the fluidity of that dance that a dancer can bring in. And by the way, I've always thought that dancers are at least as good athletes as soccer players. I mean,
ballet, especially pound for pound, ballet dancers are purportedly the strongest folks on earth.
Exactly.
But I want to get back to that philosophy you have of, instead of teaching somebody, putting them in a position so that they can learn themselves.
Exactly.
That's actually a really interesting life lesson approach too, because I had a drawing instructor, and he said, "Look, I can teach you how to draw." He says, "But what I really need to do is I really need to teach you how to see. And if you can see, then you can actually, execute on the drawing. But if you can't see it, where, it's 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, then you're never going to get there. I've got to teach you how to see." So you're helping these kids put in a position so that they can learn themselves. I have to believe, and I guess I'll ask it as a question more than a statement. Do you think that philosophy applies to other areas of their life, that they take that with them outside of soccer?
Oh, heck yeah. I'd add on to what you're saying, and I think you were actually saying this, but without saying it, is not just to see it, but to feel it.
Yeah.
Because that's why I bring music to my training sessions. It's, for me, I use the music as a metronome for how I want them to play. We play rock, blues, Motown, disco, reggae, play all, so I can get them to play like that, so they start to feel it. The same as in dance, because you have to absorb that. Soccer is a very emotional game. I've described it as a Jackson Pollock drip painting. He was famous from the 40s and 50s. People thought he was crazy. Okay, so what? He might have been. But what he did was he presented something in a different form that was still attractive to people. So what Pollock would do would be to take different colors and just let his brush drizzle across the canvas, different colors, different places. I always view it as, if each player had a different color, and every time they touched the ball, that the ball would then project their color on the field. By the end of that 80, 90 minutes, depending on the length of the match, what you would see, I believe, with all those colors would be a Jackson Pollock.
It's very rhythmic. You're talking about it being very rhythmic in terms of the motion and the fluidity of the players.
Exactly. It's not straight lines. Here, the U18s I'm picking up, I saw them play last year, and when I saw them, oh, God darn. They're very boring because it's all straight up and down, straight up and down, straight up and down. Tactically, that's not fun to watch. So what I'm going to be projecting to these kids, and they're not going to be comfortable. It's males. So they're not going to be comfortable right away, because I'm asking them to do two things. One is do something differently. Two is the bigger part, I've found, is to give them freedom to express, not just to do things. Males have a harder time with this, I've found, because I've coached women as well.
Sure. That is so
expression.
interesting. Right. That's so interesting that your perspective on this, because to me, the impression I get is that as a coach and that as a mentor, because coaches are mentors, whether they like it or not, that's a responsibility you have, is that you are asking these young men to just think differently than how they've thought before. Instead of linear vertical motions, to go laterally and to move diagonally and to move in space, right? And to create space. So for them, it's thinking differently about their literally thinking differently about their place on the pitch.
Exactly. But how it all flows. One of the first things I always say, and I think I did mention it on at our meeting, was to get them to play so they're not so concerned about that stupid little round thing I call it stupid little round thing, the ball. Don't freaking worry about that. Check it, know where it is. Now, it's everything else that's going on around is what we're working with. We know where the ball is. Now, how are we going to maneuver and get behind the opponent so they're chasing us towards their own goal? It comes down to something I also like to get into is the purpose of hips. We never want to play be in a situation where our hips are facing our own goal, because that way there's a better chance, because we're chasing and they have the ball. And we always want them to be chasing us towards their own goal. So to simplify a couple of different things, it helps shorten the learning process, because they can
That's fascinating.
Get an idea for it.
And so what? No, go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, I was going to say, what's fascinating about that to me is that you're talking to them collectively as a team, but then of course you have to treat them differently, right? So one of my favorite coaches of all is Mike Tomlin, the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He goes, I'm not going to treat everybody the same, but I'll be fair, right? Because everyone's got to be different. So for you, what kind of attention do you have to pay to your kids, right? To notice the ones who are naturally more expressive, naturally more fluid, some who are stronger, some who are more precise, someone who likes the open space, someone who feels uncomfortable with too much space. How do you adjust yourself to those different mindsets?
Well, first of all, I'll touch on one thing, and then I want to get back to that meeting last week, because it seems like you were probably at the damn meeting. So what happened? First of all, there's two types of players: those that can play centrally and those that play wide. Centrally, there's much more going on. It's for players that either defend individually or attack individually in one-on-one situations. Somebody has speed and they knock the ball past their opponent and then they start heading towards the goal. I want that in a wide position up front. So that just fits. Now, what happened, I had two examples for you that you touched on, which makes me think that you were at the meeting. I went in briefly about the system of play that I like. I like to play with 7 midfielders, 2 backs, a line of 4 mids, a line of 3 mids, and 1 central attacker, one top player. But this is where it comes in what you were saying. A player approached me after the meeting and said, "I'd like to learn more about what you mean. How do you play with 7 midfielders?" So I talked to him about, well, we do a lot of shifting. We do a lot of deep analysis on what the opponent is doing, isolate them over towards the touch line. So the touch line, which is the sideline, becomes an 11th player for us. The closer we can get them to that touch line, the more dangerous it is for them to not have to. So we limit their space. We first cut them in half. All right, dudes, you want the left or you want the right? Let them go whichever way they want. And then we start isolating. So we have, for example, if we force the ball to our left, our 2 backs will shift over to that side and cover marks. The weak side back midfielder slides back. We now have 3 backs, and they can't get past us that way. Plus, there's angled play. While they're playing they're man marking, they're individually marking, plus they're playing as a group. So
Right.
there are layers to it. So a lot of shifting. Whoever's on the weak side drops back, and we start to compress. What we're looking for, Chris, is someplace in the midfield that we can have a free player to put two on the ball. We want
Right.
to start the counterattacks 30 to 40 yards from goal. We do not want to do counterattacks 70 to 80 yards from goal. Two reasons for that. One, it gets them so they're chasing their own goal quicker, and it plays with their brain because they start losing confidence, especially if we score. And also that it allows us to play longer at a higher rate of speed and a higher rate of fitness, because we now are taking out multiple times. We may be removing sprints of that extra 20, 30, or 40
Sure.
yards.
Yeah, your sprints are shorter, so you have more energy as the game goes on.
I call them sprint steps.
I love the
Take
tactics of it. And what you talk about is so interesting and intriguing for me, because you're talking about an individual being responsible for themselves, but also that player having the spatial awareness of his teammates. So it's a single mark man on man, but it's also a group, right?
Exactly.
The reason I find that so different from my upbringing is that my athletic experience in high school and Division III was a swim. So I was on the swim team. And, this is a quote unquote team sport because there's a bunch of people, but really it's not a team sport. The team is there for camaraderie and support and collective morale, and it's fun. But in swimming, it's really all about you and your time. That's all it is, right? It's not even about you and the other person that you're competing against. It's you and the time. If the time is faster than someone else's time, you win. If it's not, you lose. So it's not really ever even about another player. It's always about the clock. And so so my coach, whom I loved, Dan Dacus is his name. I got so much out of it, Scott, because when I started swimming in high school, and I had swum in middle school, but in high school I broke my collarbone. And so I started the season a little bit late, a little bit injured, and I was put in the distance swims, and I sucked at it. It was terrible. It was just not for me. And then midway through my sophomore year, we were doing drills, and we were doing backstroke drills. And he was like, "What the F, Foster? I didn't know you could do backstroke." And I was like, "I didn't know I could do backstroke either." He goes, "You're doing backstroke next meet." And so the following meet, I did the 100-yard backstroke, and for the very first time, I won the race. I got first. And I was like, I never got first before, and I was all in. Suddenly, Scott, my entire mindset of not only that year, but in high school and college, it completely changed. I had a focus. I had a thing that gave me confidence that I could win at. And I ended up getting the school records. So that was something so I could say that there's no one in the history of this school that was faster that was faster than me in this one thing. Like in this one thing, I actually am the fastest in the whole history of this entire school. And I can hang on to that from a confidence standpoint. And it changed my whole confidence as a youngster completely. And my whole life changed because of that approach in my life, and because I could believe in myself, right? So I have to think that as a coach, when you're able to find a youngster, or like you said, going for a turnaround team who had losing records or new programs and building them up of strength and confidence, that must do something to those young boys and young girls in terms of their minds and their hearts and their sense of self.
It must have something to do. We establish a relationship. It starts with trust and just having fun together, winning together. Kids, when I was a freshman, I still Facebook with some of those kids. I see, they've gone, a bunch of them have gone through being soccer parents who maybe a soccer grandparent now. So, and we're still in touch with each other. A teammate of mine just actually called me up this afternoon, a college teammate of mine, and just checking in.
Oh, wow.
Hey, we're going to be heading down, to our old stomping grounds to see some of the other people. Can you go? It's like, I can't because we have this tryout next week. So I can't go.
Right.
But it is about relationships. And it's a lot of times those are, it's not the positive relationships aren't necessarily going to be coming out of losing. They're probably going to be coming out of winning. But also, though, it's the same as if you've had positive experiences and something that the players have accomplished themselves, for what you're saying, you ended up doing it yourself, and now you can look back on it, and that helped boost you. I mean, these sort of things can come in so many different ways because what we're talking about, this is really great stuff, Chris. When I went to college, Jerry Stark was the coach, and he knew I came in as a forward. All right. And very first training session, he said, I want you to take everything you know as an attacker, turn around 180 degrees, and lead the defense. I want you to run the defense. Like, what the? You know,
you were like, but wait, crazy, but wait, I'm a forward. But wait.
Yeah. But Jerry did something to me that opened me up because I saw it as, oh shit, now I have a responsibility. I better know what I'm. So I started going over after classes and between training sessions and studying sessions and things. I started watching videos, and I came up and something struck me that I noticed from watching professional teams and national teams. And I came up with what I call the scoring zone. It's an area inside the penalty box. It's 18 yards with an arc and blah, blah, blah. I started using mathematics because it takes 15 more shots to score from outside the scoring zone than it does in. So every goal that's scored in the scoring zone, it takes 15 more shots. So that's what we're going to go attack, and that's what we're going to defend. So with that, also, I started looking at mathematics in the game, angles and percentages. The whole game seems to be like angles and percentages. So our players learn the closer an opponent gets to the end line, the more likely it is to do what? I'd always ask them, well, they're going to serve the ball in front of the goal. Of course. So why don't professional and national teams do that better? Because everybody's worried about that stupid little round thing. They're all shifting towards the ball. That's a sucker play. It's especially in Premier League, man. A lot of those goals, they play flank. English always played flank when I was playing. We'd play flank runs, so we'd shut that down and force them in the middle, and that would screw them up. But what we do is, okay, so John or Bill or whoever is marking that player that's taking the ball down towards the end line. Got him. The rest of us now have to take our marks.
Right.
Trust him. Trust him to not give away a freebie or let him get around and go towards goal. Trust him. He's going to ride him all the way down to the end line. If he gets a serve across, we all know where it's going to be. So
because you're all in the box, so you can defend the box just right there.
Yep. Our back is facing their goal. We are ready. It's a 50-50 ball after it leaves that guy's foot. We're going to go run that freaking ball. We're either going to clear it or we're going to collect it and then start a counterattack from there.
Yeah. So I love it.
Down, it's simple. It's really simple.
Yeah. Yeah. But what it does though is you mentioned a couple of things that, if your coach said, hey, Scott, I want you to play defense or lead the defense. As a forward, though, that probably gives you so much insight because now as a defender, you're like, I know how I'd attack this. So now I know how to defend what I'm gonna attack. I think that's brilliant. And I think that where coaching is, it's so funny, Scott. There are these little moments that I remember. One of them, and where to me, this value of a coach where you have someone who, outside of your family, outside of your friend network, there's a person there who doesn't really know you, but through the course of being a coach and athlete, knows you in an intimate way that no one else does, right? And there's a sense that if someone else can believe in me, then maybe I can believe in myself and push me to believe in myself. I remember this one time, and in swimming, we had morning practices 3 days a week. And then so it was actually double practices. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we had a morning practice at 6 a.m., which was optional, and then the afternoon practice. Well, as soon as I started to invest and lean in, I went to every single morning practice, right? And then we had Saturdays from 9 to 12, right? So I'm there every, and bro, this is Pittsburgh, January, February. Come on, it's 12 degrees. It's dark, right? And my mom would get me up and she would before I could drive, she would drive me. And then there were times when we would carpool. But there was one time I went there and I rolled up you're unrolling the blankets off the swim pool and it's cold, right? It just is. And I was the only one there. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm the only one. And coach rolls in and he was like, oh, fuck, really? Only one today? And I was like, oh. And I thought he was going to be like, no, just, Foster, don't worry about it. Just hang it. He was like, okay, here we go, Chris, let's do it. I was like, okay, coach. And we had this one set, and for swimmers who don't know, it doesn't mean much, but for me, it was so important, where he did this set where he said, we're going to do 5 200s on 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And to give some context, usually 100s, which is half, we do at 1 minute and 30. So this meant that my hundreds had to be at 110 or 115 if I wanted any rest at all, and then I'd do 2 of them back to back. So 5 200s at 230 was, my eyeballs popped out of my head when he said that's what we were doing. But I'll never forget this, Scott, because I did it, and I had a song that I played in my head, and I dug in, and he was on the side of the deck saying, go, go, go. He was right there with me. And this happened, I mean, this is now 40 years ago. I still haven't forgotten it. That moment seared into my brain, into that amygdala hippocampus, that emotion long-term memory part of my brain is just there. And that doesn't happen without a coach. Right? That's what a coach does for an athlete.
Yeah.
And it changes you. I think that for you, though, you have hundreds of these kids that come through in and out of your life. Are there moments that you've discovered or that you remember where you touched this kid or this student, just you could see the impact that you had?
Well, going back to that meeting last week, the player that came up and spoke with me and who wanted to learn more, he didn't want that conversation, and I had to end that. And I know I've got him bought in. I said, well, here's your perfect spot, because he told me about the type of place on the field he likes to play. And I said, well, I think we should look at you in the 2 or the 3, which he was starting to get an idea for. He was getting the imagination in his mind. As I was leaving the room, there was a player that was hanging back with his parents. And I started speaking with him, like, okay, what sort of position do you see in your heart? Where does that come from? And his mother spoke up for him. So I started getting an idea. He plays central attacker. It's like, okay, Mom, shut up. I didn't say that, of course. Sure. I just looked at him. So what do you think? Well, I've been the central attacker for the high school team and for the club team. Okay. So, and I always do my homework, Chris. I went in, you know what? What about the goals, though? You guys didn't score many goals last year, high school or club. So why aren't you putting the ball in the goal? And the mom spoke up again. He lost confidence. So I looked at him again, and he has his eyeballs right on me. Like, yeah, I kind of do. Well, there we go. That's what we're going to work on first. You're going to learn to have confidence in yourself. So we already dug that out. We're ready with that. Now we start working on that. And it just, you need, I put it in terms of a former teammate of mine. His name was Pete Wyszynski. And I said, we need you to become more of a Pete Wyszynski. Pete was the type of player that if he touched the ball 5 times in a match, he scored 3 goals. We don't know how he did it. He just always finished. So again, I'm planting a seed in this kid's brain that it's okay to score. And I also mentioned that you got to come up with something you're going to do afterwards to celebrate too, because scoring a goal is special. So it's there, getting him loosened up a little bit. So if I get to see him, do something, if we're in training or something, he puts one away. It's like, come on, show me, do something.
Yeah.
Do a little dance or something. Celebrate that. So I've got him set up for that position. It's possible that he isn't truly a goal scorer, and I'll have to go back to square one. But
sure, but it's possible that he is. But he is.
If he is,
and you could unlock it.
Height, he has the body shape for it. I haven't seen him play. I don't know. And his father said that they've been going to the weight room and okay, work on your shoulders because it's going to be rough in the penalty box, and work on your hips and your upper thighs because that's where you're going to get jostled. You have to be able to handle it in tight spaces because if you want to be a goal scorer, you're going to be hit. You're going to get beat up in a box. So you have to be ready for it. The whole time, though, Chris, he's looking straight in the eye. He's looking me straight in the eye. So there is a confident player in there because he's not looking at the floor and just absorbing being told. He's engaging with me. So he's also already believing in me. So he's buying in. See, this is where I like to start. Get him to buy in because then it spreads.
Sure. And that's the culture that you create. And especially if he's looking at you, he's wanting you to believe in him. He's wanting you to be that coach for him, right? Every young man, I'm sure young women too, but I'm only been a man, so I can only speak for men. Every young man wants a mentor.
Yeah.
Every young man wants to see another man who's older or more experienced or in some type of coach or mentor role believe in them. And that's such a beautiful and unique position that you've created for you in your life, that your whole vocation is about a constant run of mentorship.
I never think about that. I never do. I mean, I won Coach of the Year 4 times. It still comes down to what do we do together? Hell, I want to go win another state championship. I've won 2. I've been part of one.
Oh, congratulations.
Hey, let's go. You guys want to go win a 3rd? Yeah. Okay. Help me win a 3rd.
By the way, that's freaking awesome that you've won state champions. Congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, well, when I was coaching at the college level, my objective was to win a national championship, and we didn't do that. So, but that's okay. We're still nationally ranked. Feels pretty good, though.
We'll be right back. That's pretty awesome. It's so funny. Did you watch the series Ted Lasso?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Every soccer person has. Oh, you bet.
Of course. But what I loved about it at the end where, if anyone has not seen this isn't going to spoil much. If you have seen it, you'll know what I mean. But when Trent Krim writes the book about, he said the Lasso way. And he says, I love it, Trent. I just don't like the title. It's not the Lasso way. It was never about me. Right. And what you just said was so interesting because, you're like a coach of the year, but you're like, but we won the state champion. We won the state champions. It seems to me that your approach to this is that it isn't about you. No. It's about the players being the best versions of themselves and growing themselves.
I do get it when I come home after a win and I come home and Sue, my wife, says, how's the match? Like, this happened, we won 2-1 in the last couple of seconds. That's where I can have fun with it. That's when otherwise it's continuously plug away, get ready for the next match, here's one level, let's go to the next level and keep prodding and pushing.
Well, that's the thing. It's keep prodding and pushing. It seems to me that your whole life is about development. It's about constantly getting better, and it's about having other young kids get better too. I just think that's a beautiful way to live in terms of a perspective of a life. Interesting
perspective. I don't think about it. I need to.
You just live it. You just live it. Do it. So tell me now, you are, along with being a coach, you're an advocate for folks with disability. Yes. And so talk to me about that, if you could, and tell the audience. There was, you were gracious enough to share an excerpt of your upcoming book, which is going to be incredible. And kind of what pivoted in your life so that you could add that to your own life's journey of mentorship.
Wow. So when I was growing up, it was mainly in the 60s. And I swear every night I watched Walter Cronkite on the CBS Evening News. And, really getting involved and in touch with what he was reporting. Vietnam War, everything was open and honest. Civil rights movement. When Bobby Kennedy, the father, not the senior one, when Bobby passed, it was, hell, he was murdered. Martin Luther King was murdered.
Yeah.
I started getting an idea. I mean, even I was 10 years old when those two passed. And I was starting to question humanity, and also would start pissing me off. And I think a lot of that, because of what has been going on in our country, it's really, and what has happened to the disabled community. When I was writing the book, nothing was happening. Well, it was just the focus on the disabled community and how the disabled community wasn't getting a fair shake, and disabled people, in my view, weren't feeling good about themselves. So want to try to help. Again, it goes back to watching Walter Cronkite and all this. It would piss me off. I want to do something to shake things up and say, well, I always have another mantra. Do not ask why, but rather why not. It's a paraphrase of something that Bobby Kennedy Sr. said. Do not ask why, but rather why not. Let's go for it. Why can't everyone feel good about things? It took me decades, Chris, to finally get over becoming disabled. Going from a white guy with a career in athletics, just to win and keep going up the ladder, to all of a sudden being labeled as disabled. I experienced that. So with that, that is a struggle. But it seems like it's changed, Chris, as in we've had to take on the persona of what we're pitching, what the book now is more of a, this is a positive story in negative times. So it seems like we've circumvented around the disabled community and started focusing, because, God, I'm on more than 50 podcasts we're booked on, or we've done a bunch. They seem to be more on the human interest side, more on the positive story, inspirational side. It's so different from what I thought. But going back to your original, 1.3 billion disabled people in the world. I'm an ambassador.
Wait, 1.3 in the world?
Billion.
All right, so let me just do the math. There are 9 billion people on Earth. So 1.3 divided by 9, that's a lot of folks, actually. That's a high percentage.
A lot of it is hidden. A lot of it is things that we don't normally see. But for the visibly disabled, not visually disabled, the visibly disabled, like myself, who's missing two hands, that's visibly disabled. More for that, it's for me trying to help people come out of the shell, because I was in that freaking shell for over 2 decades.
Wow.
About what that is. I hit the brick wall of depression after a while, and it all had to do with becoming a member of that disabled community and how I viewed myself negatively, and so many other people. Hey, if somebody reads the book and starts, especially if they're disabled, and starts thinking more positively about being labeled as disabled, okay, that's what I want out of it. To try to throw this out there and see who gets what out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Scott, because I go back to how you even introduced yourself. The fact that you were disabled was the last thing you said to describe yourself, right? And there was a gentleman I talked to, his name is Ken Kunkin, unbelievable guy. He broke his neck playing football in Cornell. And so he was a top athlete and all this kind of stuff. One stupid ass special teams play, broke his neck, paralyzed from the neck down. And this is Cornell, so the winters are crappy. He went back to school the next year, and he had his motorized wheelchair trying to get up the steps with ice and all this kind of stuff. And he ended up graduating with honors, ended up becoming a district attorney, has a wife and 3 kids. It's just a remarkable man and a remarkable life. And where he ended up mentally was, he wasn't going to let the disability define who he was. And like you can imagine, I'm sure like with you go to that really dark place. You go to that wilderness because your whole identity changed, your sense of how am I going to live my life now? for you, how did you get out of that place? How did you get out of the place where, after the incident and you're like, okay, I have to redefine myself. What was that building process like?
Oh man, it took time. So it was after my first year coaching at the college level, nationally ranked, that I contracted group A strep and necrotizing fasciitis. Some people might remember this as the flesh-eating disease. I still work. I went right back to work, which is stupid right off the bat, Chris. Stupid. All I did was focus on that. That's when it started with me going deeper and deeper into depression. Still continued having a nationally ranked program because all I did was focus on work. So then I didn't have to focus on, if I didn't have time to see my disability, to deal with it, it kind of didn't exist. But I did pay for it by running into the brick wall of depression. I paid for it then. But it continued. I resigned my position. People read this in the book. We lost a 2-week long $10 million medical malpractice suit because they should have treated me in the emergency room and they didn't. Blah, blah. I mean, I reached a point in my life where I was the only one who could do something about it. Okay, I know that people were probably wouldn't have been surprised if I had committed suicide. Okay, so I pitched everything: medals, awards, trophies, pictures with important people, whatever. Pitched it all, and I moved out west and went on food stamps and started working as an assistant coach for free because I needed to strip myself down. That was the start of it. I had to relearn. I mean, just why not? Just pretty much basically naked with everything I was doing. So a little something changed. I ended up leaving soccer altogether and I started adopting children. I ended up with 5 adopted kids. That started that process of improving. At least I was away from being thought of as less than. My kids love me, but I was out of soccer and I was away from that spotlight. So I didn't have to think about it again. But I still wasn't out of the woods, Chris, because it didn't really happen until my youngest was in high school and the other one was in the military, the other was in college and things. And I went back to start coaching and experienced discrimination one more time. And I started working with this 3rd level group of kids that nobody thought would amount to anything. And here it goes with, to prove myself. They had something to prove too. They were 3rd level. And I was told by the director of coaching, you got to keep them happy, keep the parents happy because we need that money to keep the program alive. It's like, screw you. So what we did, same thing I always do, worked on their confidence. Went through the summer, played in 3 finals, 3 championship matches, lost all 3. But at the end of that, we interviewed all the kids. We had a review of the summer and asked them all about losing that last match. And they were all mad. So I knew that they were no longer lacking confidence because there's no way you're going to get mad if you lose and you expect to lose. You expect to win, you're going to get mad. So here comes the state league season. 18 matches, went undefeated. So proved all of these people, it's like all of those kids and me, we're all flipping the bird at those people that didn't think, right? Didn't think that they could amount to anything or we could do anything about it. So that's what the whole book is based on. There's such similarity between the second half of the book, working with those kids I called my soccer rats, and the first half, running a program, getting sick, going through, continuing, faking being me, running into the brick wall of depression. And really, Chris, we only use the adoption in 1 chapter to create a bridge between the first half and the second half of the book, because I wanted to keep my kids out of it, really. But
see, what's interesting about that? Go ahead.
I was going to say,
it comes down to what?
The same thing every time. Even these kids I'm going to start working with next week, it's the same thing. They didn't think that they wanted to do this, but now I've got them to buy in, and now let's go do something together. It's just
and you're building something. So what I think is so beautiful about that, Scott, is as you take these 3rd level kids and you say, I'm going to build your confidence, but they're also building your confidence, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's the relationship that happens where the athlete helps the coach learn too.
Exactly.
And it's like you needed to go through that rebuilding of your life, but you can channel that through the rebuilding of a soccer program, right? It's such a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, last piece of discrimination with that was the next season, the next tryouts, 12 of those 17 kids advanced to the upper level teams. I wasn't asked to come back. Nothing was ever said to me. Here we go with discrimination again. I said, screw this. I came back to Wisconsin. We were in Washington at the time. Came back to Wisconsin and reignited a relationship from my teens. And
wow.
Yeah, that's Sue. She's upstairs right now. We've been married for 6 years now. We were apart for 40 years. Yeah, man. And I came back. I'm substitute teaching. I took a group of 14-year-olds. It took us a couple of years, but we won a state championship. And a bunch of those kids went off and were playing college soccer. So it's all the same thing. It all boils down to the same thing. Pissed me off until I want to go beat you now. Let's go build something and pull.
Let's go build something.
Let's go build something.
Yeah, and I think that that's a beautiful way to live a life, right? Let's build and improve, right? Create and improve, create and improve, create and improve, and that's just a cycle that happens where you seek out the teams that really want to improve. Right. Not, so one of the reasons that I fell in love with Brentford is that, they had been through the Championship League for a long time. They almost made it to Premier League, but they didn't. And then the next year they finally did. So they go into their first year of Premier League and everyone thinks they're going to be right on the relegation shelf, but they didn't. They got to 13th place and they did it in a way where they said, look, we're going to play incredible compact defense. And the only time we're going to really score goals, because admittedly our team is just not as skilled as Arsenal or Man City. They just aren't. These are the kind of players. We can't afford those kinds of players. Our budget's too small. So we're going to score on counters and set pieces. That's it.
There you go.
That's how we're going to do it, because the set piece is a great equalizer. And you can always counter if you have a couple of fast folks that you can knock to. And so they got through that first season, and then they've started to change and adapt. And the new coach now, and then this year, this summer, their coach, Thomas Frank, who had brought them to Premier League and promotion, the captain and their two biggest goal scorers, who combined for 40 goals, everyone left over the summer. And they said, well, the Brentford run is over. It's too bad, so sad. They'll be in relegation zone and their new manager will be sacked by Christmas. But that's not the case. Right now they're sitting 7th place. They've overachieved. But their coach, Keith Andrews, was a former player. He's a player's coach. And he says, look, this game is very simple. It's just about the players and the fans. And his whole mantra is player development. Now, and as someone who's looking across the country at these matches, right? This is all I get to see. But I can see the players getting better over the year. Over this year, they've gotten better. And it's the investment of that development of those folks. And I think for me, just in the 55 minutes that I've known you, Scott, it seems to me your whole life's work is about development and growth of other people and yourself, where you're constantly trying to get people to do more than they did before. Does that land?
Yeah, and that's writing a book is one thing, Chris, and editing it is another. Marketing it is a whole different animal. And I'm learning a lot about myself and what people are wanting out of this, or what they're grabbing from my story. What are they grabbing out of it? It's totally different from what I thought. I'm going along with it, and it's actually pulling more out of me, I'm finding. I mean, that cocky son of a bitch that I was before I got sick is right in front of you, across through a camera, but he's right here. I mean, I'm that guy again. I am that, and it's so freaking nice to be able. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm okay with making mistakes. Totally okay with it. And actually, one of the things I tell players is that I haven't talked to these new players about it yet. In training, I expect you to make mistakes because if you train properly, training properly is about trying new things, pushing yourself.
And risking.
Exactly. So you better be making mistakes. It's in the
Yeah,
matches we don't want to see the mistakes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but if you're not risking, then you're not growing, right?
Exactly.
And if you're not making,
yeah, it's okay. Yeah, exactly. Training is where you risk. I like how you put that. I never use the word. Maybe I'll start using that. Yeah, risking these things. And I did tell these new players that I'm going to be, and I've always said this, be aware, guys, because I'm going to end up asking you more questions and telling you what to do. Because I want them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet and trust whether they're right or they're wrong. I like when players are right to kind of give them the eye, almost make it seem like my body language is saying, no, that was wrong, to see how they handle that. And if they can handle it, and then, okay, so support it. Why do you think that is? You state it, now support it. And if they could do it with looking me straight in the eye and going, hopefully they get to the point where they're comfortable enough with me. This is part of the process too. Then we could talk. So for example, I pull someone out of a match to get information. It's not because they were doing something wrong. It's to get information. What do you see from the opponent? And then blah, blah, blah. 5 minutes, boom, go back in. Now I have more information, but it's also an opportunity to help them rest a little bit. And they didn't know they were resting, but they were. And also getting them more focused into the game and showing them that I trust them because I want their information because they're the ones that are playing.
Well, they're the ones that are playing. And I think what also you said earlier is that you're trying to not teach them. You're trying to put them in a position so that they can learn.
Exactly.
And the one unique thing about soccer is that the players play on the field, where in football, in American football, coaches put a play in and they're always intimately involved in every play with the players. Not so, right? The soccer players are on the pitch by themselves. They've got to make decisions by themselves. They've got to work with each other and know the framework that the coach or manager puts in play, but they're the ones doing it in the moment. So to your point earlier about the sense of freedom and the freedom to make their own choices, what is so interesting about the game is that it's a lot like life, right? You can... parents are going to tell you certain things, but in life, you've got to make your own decisions. You've got to walk your own way. You've got to be spatially aware of the community and other people around you, and you're in it. Someone's not telling you what to do. You have to learn yourself.
Yeah, my work comes in training. If they're not doing what we go over in training, there's a reason for it, and maybe it was me. Look at anybody. Go watch probably any basketball game. It could be youth, especially NBA and college. What the coach is doing. He's going up and down the sidelines telling the players what to do. Shut the hell up. Go sit down. Right. It happens in soccer. I can't. Oh, God. Arsenal coach. The Arsenal. I can't think of his name.
Mikel Arteta.
Thank you. He still thinks, this is my own personal feeling, he thinks he's still a freaking player. You're not.
He wants.
You're not. Shut up. What I do is, and I'm not saying I'm God's gift to coaching, I sit. I have a golf chair, 3-legged chair. I like to plop down. And sometimes I'll sit on the bench with the players, depending on the stadium where we're in or where we're at, and just take notes. Every once in a while, did you happen to see, what do you think about what number 10 is doing? Or they just pulled 10. Did you notice that there's a new player coming in? Get ready and learn about him. So it's throwing things out. It's not my game, man. I'm not playing,
Right.
Go. But let's share information. If we both have information, we'll talk about it at halftime. I give players an opportunity. My halftime is maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And then boom, you guys rest, fluids. We do that. And then I'll present, and then we open up to discussions. We have to be careful about that because sometimes they get off on tangents and shit. So I have to pull them back in like a professor does sometimes in a good open discussion in a classroom in college. So it is all interesting. All of that stuff comes into play. Yeah, football coaches too. Why are they so many of them calling the plays? It's so complicated now, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think what you've done though is, like I said, you create this culture of mentorship where you're asking questions of the youth instead of telling them what to do. So in formulating the answers themselves, they gain more confidence and understand how to do it in new environments, right?
Exactly.
And in different situations. And that's a beautiful metaphor for how to go through life. I think the life lessons that you're teaching them are going to be invaluable, and they might not share that with you, but I guarantee you it's happening.
Well,
That's incredible.
It doesn't surprise me. A lot of my players have gone on to officiate, like I said before, soccer parents, soccer grandparents. Some have gone on to do some coaching as well. So
Sure.
they get it from someplace, but it's always cool, when I hear about so-and-so is now coaching at whatever high school or with whatever club. It's really cool to hear about.
So do they call you Coach M, Coach Scott, Coach Martin? What do they say?
I always call me Scott. The kids in the book, right from the start, and they just call me Scott. We're sweating together, for crying out loud. We're working together. Why not? And like the meeting last night, towards the end, I said, oh, by the way, please don't call me Coach. We're going to be working together. Call me Scott, and we'll see if that sticks. So many times, the parents get involved, and they probably tell, no, you better call him Coach. You better call him Mr. Martin. Don't do that. I need to break through that.
Sure.
That's one of the things I need to start working on next week when we have the tryout / training session. And I present some of our basic concepts. See if it's starting to work, that it's call me Scott. The sooner they start calling me Scott, the more I know that they bought in fully.
I love it.
That's what I want.
I love it.
I want that.
Well, I'm sure it's going to happen. I hope we can keep in touch so I can learn how the season goes. So I've got one final question for you, Scott. Who is someone that you know that I don't know that I should know?
That I know that you don't know that you should know.
Mm-hmm.
You should meet my wife.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She is amazing. Love it. She makes me
you have such a like a total rom-com like story.
I was 19, she was 17. I was the DJ at a disco the night before we opened, and I walked in after going to use the bathroom, and I saw her. Went, holy crap. We went out on one official date, Chris, and I started realizing that I was too immature, and I let life just drift and happen. But 40 years later, it's been bugging her, and she's always been in the back of my mind. All of a sudden, I get a messenger message, and she said her last name was different, but I looked in her photos and went, oh my God, it's her. So, yeah, and
it's beautiful.
We're together. Yeah, I love it, man.
That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. That is a great story.
She is really cool.
Well, that's cool. I'd love to meet her one day. Well, Scott, you're amazing. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to have this conversation with me.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. This is great. Very casual, easy to work with, and it's somebody that actually knows soccer. That's good.
Yes, well, I'm a fan now. Well, listen, my blessings to you and your family and your kids this season. Love to learn how everything shakes out.
Going for it.
All righty. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Well, okay, Scott Martin. What an incredible human being. What an amazing coach. I love his idea of being a coach. What does that actually mean? How do you bring out the best in other people? How does he see his role as helping young folks, not only physically, but mentally, especially in a team game like soccer where you want someone to be their best individual self, but also buy into the collective, right? Buy into the entire team of what they're trying to do, to see each athlete differently from one another, to be equal but fair but different for each one. So what did I learn from Scott? I learned that the coaches are all around us, and that if you were coached by a coach, you got that value, but that also you can be a coach to other people. And, the disabilities don't define you. This is a guy who lost his hands and his feet in his 20s. But that didn't define him. You heard him at the beginning. He defines himself as a mentor and a coach and a husband. The fact that he's disabled, he just moves past that. So what does it actually mean to be disabled? Is it physically? Is it in your mind? And how do you overcome all of that? These are the ways in which we live our life. These are the ways in which we all get better. And especially if you can be a coach and mentor, you can help other people get better too. Man, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoy this podcast. If you do, spread the word. Tell other people. And other people can join too. You can also join. Go to menfolksjourneys.com and book a conversation, because I'd love to hear about your story too. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you listening and spreading the word. Word bit falarid.